Ladies, gentlemen, and all you beautiful people in between, my name is Strife Knight, and welcome to the long-requested, long-awaited breakdown of UmaMusume Cinderella Grey. It's final time to uncover all the hidden references, secrets, and trivia. I won't keep you waiting, so let's get to it. First airing on April 6, 2025, Cinderella Grey is an anime adaptation of the manga by the same name, which adapts the real-life career of Oguri, produced by Junsuke Ito, written by Masafumi Sugiura, and illustrated by Taiyo Kuzune. It started publication on June 11, 2020, and officially ended on December 25th, 2025, after the anime's release. If you're a big fan of the show and are the top person to watch videos like these, I can't recommend checking out the manga enough. There's so much more in there that the anime skips, from bonus pages to additional character trivia. There's a whole lot that shows this is a clear labor of love and passion from the creators. But for this video, we'll be focusing on the anime. However, I'll still bring up the manga when appropriate. We start off with some Uma history, and we're shown Maruzansky, Mr. CB, and Simbali Rudolph participating in G1 races. Maruzansky makes an interesting case, however, as the real-life horse had never once ran in a graded race, though the one depicted in the anime is most likely the 1976 Asahi High, which later did go on to become a G1 race in 1984. We jump to the 1987 Japanese Derby, which is narrated by none other than Masato Akasaka, making a grand return after her absence from Road to the Top and beginning of a new era. That race and student council are spectating Gold City, who wait, what the hell? She talks? Yes, believe it or not, despite making several appearances beforehand, this was the first line ever spoken by Mr. CB outside of the main game. And the Party Dash spinoff. I swear to God, there's some hidden anti-CB agenda going on behind the scenes. Or maybe her voice actress is expensive or something. I don't know. But regardless, this is the first time that Cinderella Grey is not shackled by the same chains as the rest of the franchise. Mary Beauty, a stand-in for Mary Nice, wins the race. A result which is witnessed by Kitahara Joe, our new leading trainer for the series, who is based on three individuals. Oguri Cap's trainer, Masao Otsumi, whose dream it was to win the Tokai Derby, as well as Katsumi Ando, Oguri Cap's lead jockey whose maiden name was Kitahara, and his birthday on March 28th is shared by the character. And lastly, his owner, Koichi Oguri. Joe is accompanied by his friend and fellow trainer, Koichi Shibasaki. The two are spectating a race in the Gifu Prefecture's Kasamatsu racecourse, a real-life local racecourse which was, at the time, as barren as the anime makes it out to be. On their way back, they get passed by a surprisingly quick UmaMusume, our first glimpse at our protagonist, Oguri Cap. Now cue the intro! Alright, that's all you needed to hear. This opening track actually breaks a tradition which has been set since the start of the franchise, that of the main character singing it. Instead, this is the first opening in UmaMusume, as well as one of the few musical tracks overall to be sung by a male vocalist, as this was performed by the band Alexandros, whom some of you may recognize as the guys who did the main theme for the Judge guys from the Judge Eyes Yakuza spin-off, Judgment. I mean, the song is good, don't get me wrong, but this was a significant disappointment, I can't lie. They had a perfectly usable Oguri Cap and Tomo Cross cover of the song, which they could have used. The episode begins proper when this girl, who is not the protagonist, shows up acting like she is. Anybody who's ever read JoJo Part 4 knows where this is going.
My name is Kwanji, age 15.
This is Bell No Light, a stand-in for Twin B. You know, like the Konami game. You can tell because she has a little pair of twin bees on the side of her head. As you can see from her ear ornament, she's a mare, and her birthday matches up with her real-life counterpart. She's pretty blatant as a Jogber counterpart, but unlike other individuals who get this sort of treatment, she's actually a large part of the story, and will play a significant main character role. A break from the usual of UmaMusume not straying far from the stories of horses they already have their rights to. Cinderella Grey says screw it, and just includes bootlegs as major characters, which is extremely refreshing. If only this sort of thing came about a little sooner.
I am sorry, my mentor. I have failed you.
Bell No Light is voiced by Momoko Seto, which may surprise some of you as a recast. She was actually voiced before the anime adaptation in official manga previews, in which she was voiced by Miyara Nemoto, who would later on become the official voice for Samson Big. Another major stand-in character is Fujimasa March, who is filling in for March Tosho, one of Ogre Cap's early rivals. By contrast, we're also shown 3 characters who are entirely original and not based on anyone. Known Ace, Rudy Limono, and Minnie the Lady. All of these are made up, which more than the bootleg stand-ins means we'll never ever see them in the game. If you want to read into it a little more, the reason for these characters' inclusion and their role in the story as Ogre Cap's bullies isn't meant to reference anything from real life, but rather taking directly this Cinderella inspiration to heart, as they kind of act like the evil stepmother and stepsisters towards Ogre. Ogre arrives late to class covered in dirt, which will earn her the name of Dust Bunny at her school, a reference to the fact that Ogre was born in Inaba Farm, Hokkaido, the gray horses of which are called the Inaba Dust Bunnies. In class they're taught that they're all losers who are destined for failure and will rot away doing regional races until the day they die. Damn, man, that's kind of harsh. The regional-national dichotomy is a major plot point of the show, and it tries to drive the point home that regional horses do not make it into the nationals, setting up what's to come as all the more impressive. But there was actually a case of a horse breaking out from regionals to nationals only a decade prior. Seiko made a name for himself as the monster of local racing, and became insanely popular as a result, causing the first horse racing boom for Japan, and earning the title of the idol horse. During lunchtime, Ogre is seen eating a mountain of food. Her gluttony is based on the real horse, who since a young age was a massive eater, as he didn't get breastfed by his mother, and has to compensate by eating large amounts of grass. Ogre is forced by her bullies to sleep in the storeroom, in which she thinks about her mother, who is based on Ogre Cap's real mother, White Narubi, a relatively successful local racehorse. It's revealed that when Ogre was young, her knees were weak and she could barely walk, and thus had to be massaged regularly by her mother. Her real-life counterpart had been born with his front legs bent inward, but rather than massages, his hoof was trimmed regularly instead. When Belno asks Ogre about how well she slept, the word Hatsuratsu is shown, which means energetic. But more importantly, Hatsuratsu was actually Ogre Cap's nickname when he was still living in Inaba Farm, before he had gotten his racing name. We see the lineup of trainers at Kasamatsu, and hey, wait a minute. After they witness Fujimasa March's impressive record, they all jump at the chance to scout her. Joe, however, stays behind like the jittery cuck he is, going all, "Oh, even if I did ask her out, she won't ever say yes." Dude. Prompts tomorrow, get your shit together. Luckily for Joe, March distracting all the other trainers means he's the only one that gets to know this Ogre Cap is both very flexible and really fast despite her late start. Before her race, she shakes her head, which is something that the real Ogre Cap did before a race, to show that he was excited and in good condition. She clears the entire racetrack in record time. Somehow, Joe is the only one who sees this and asks for her name. Ogre Cap, she says, which the origin of is pretty simple. Ogre from her owner, Koichi Ogre, and Cap from her father, Dancing Cap. That's right, as in peak. Joe tells Ogre that his dream is to win the Tokai Derby. Belno calls that out as an SP1 race, which was the grading system used at Kasamatsu as opposed to saying grade 1, 2, 3, it's super prestige 1, 2, 3. Ogre doesn't really care about any of that though, and only agrees to join Kitahara because she knows she needs a trainer, and he was the first one to scout her out. This vexes me. After Belno guides Ogre to her new trainer, she ends up joining Kitahara's team. Joe says that he can handle training them both no problem. We'll touch on this later. But for now, it's notable that Ogre Cap and Twin Bee didn't actually share a trainer. It's worth mentioning because with the exception of Pretty Derby, the other series kept it consistent on who trained who. Belno asks Ogre why she wants to race. Why do horses run? Ogre replies. Ogre gets a kill streak and receives a package from her mother. A head accessory which she used to wear when she was a racer, which Ogre puts on during her debut race. This head accessory references the pattern on the silk worn by Ogre Cap's jockey. In the debut race, all the characters on screen are named, and have shown up previously as part of Ogre Cap's classroom. They're all consistent background characters that you'll see quite often if you look for them or their names. This one, South Heroine, stands up to me for a few reasons. Voiced by Hina Natsumi, that same voice actress as Gran Alegria. She's a stand-up for North Hero, and her design is somewhat reminiscent of Tamamo Cross. She has a unique detail that she wears wristbands on her race outfit. She also gets the spotlight in the opening, and she's the UmaMusume that was scouted by Yuichi, the trainer in the green jacket. Most importantly, however, she brings us back to this classic. Man, I can't wait to see more of this character. She's definitely shaping up to be the next Deuteragonist. South Heroine is overtaken by Fujimasa March, who wins the race, leaving Ogre Cap in second and South Heroine in third. The loss messed up Ogre Cap so much that she does the Dragon Ball Z thing and bleeds out of her hands. Her shoes also get torn up from kicking in the sand so much, causing workers to later see her footprints and imagine a monster, which is something that did happen in real life. Here's Ogre Cap's jockey demonstrating the difference in how Ogre Cap pressed down his feet compared to other horses. Movements like this is probably why he developed Two-Front. Ogre and Belno pay a visit to Colorful Mall in Rainbow Town, which is a real shopping mall in Gifu called Colorful Town. The confectionery Ogre seems interested in is called Anmaki, which is a specialty local to Aichi Prefecture, Chirio City, consisting of a pancake rolled up and filled with what I had initially presumed to be chocolate, you know, because I'm normal, but considering this is Japan we're talking about, it's actually bean paste. Each culture really has its own version of raisin chip cookies to fool everyone. Belno takes Ogre to buy running shoes at a shop by the name of Sports Lights, a reference to the Sports Zebio, which has closed down since August of 2024. She mentions that her family owns the place, and shows that she's very knowledgeable about horseshoes. And so where many speculated that Belno is not only based on Twin B, but also Masaru Minowa, Ogre Cap's farrier who took care of Ogre's shoes for his entire career. Ogre Cap's shoes are a running theme in the show, and features prominently in the outro. This is because it acts as a sort of setup for her glass slipper, so to speak, adding further to that Cinderella motif. Ogre Cap participates in her second race. It is based on the one from June 2nd, 1987. This is Ogre's first true race against Norn, who is wearing the number 8. As you can guess, the real race only had 7 competitors. And wait, holy shit, is that Will I Am?
I'll be rocking them beats. Yup. I'll be rocking them beats. Yup.
Ogre Cap wins. The winning live in Kasamatsu shows us that only the first place winner gets to perform on stage. If you're curious, the second and third place winners were South Heroine and Ultra Ichiban. Despite not having been trained to perform whatsoever, Ogre improvises. This ain't your creation, Ando. This is Kasamatsu, Ando. A real-life folk song and dance, which you can tell was rotoscoped. Fun fact, Asaka, Espoir City's voice actress, performed at this exact stage in Kasamatsu. After the concert, Norn apologizes to Ogre and offers her tickets to the Ace Dance Studio, owned by her family. The family's occupation for many of the side characters seem to be thought out. Bell knows it's a shoemaker company. Minnie's family owns a musical instrument shop, Rudy's a kimono shop, and March a private hospital. Fujimasa March meets with Ogre Cap at a rooftop. She asks her about her goal. Ogre has no real answer. March then challenges Ogre to the Junior Crown. This is a very important scene to the show and there's a lot of things I want to say about it, but I'll leave it to the review once again. For now, enjoy this picture of the real-life location. And the mountain shown on screen is Mount Kinka. It is 1,000 feet high. Post-credits, we see Ogre and March at the Junior Crown. Despite what the anime portrays, this is the 5th time that Ogre has raced against March, with March scoring one more on Ogre before she would be defeated twice in a row. We see Tamamo crosses in Kasamatsu. She's here because on the same date as the Junior Crown, October 4th, Tamamo Cross was competing in the dirt race in Hanshin, which is close to the Gifu area. The place in which she's eating is a real diner in the Kasamatsu racecourse, named Marukan Diner. After the release of this manga chapter, they actually put up UmaMusume merchandise and manga panels. And even a photo of a Tamamo Cross cosplayer eating in the restaurant. Very fun. Now here's a continuity error with a background asset. One of the posters in the background clearly uses an in-game screenshot with a filter, but the characters on display are ones who had not had their debut yet, including Special Week, Grass Wonder, and Super Creek, who we'll even get to see firsthand later on. In episode 4 we'll see this world's version of horse crossing signs. The calendar that March looks at lines up exactly with October of 1987, which is the only hint we have for when the series takes place. Belno finally competes in her debut race, and fails miserably. Joe is indifferent, and is more concerned with Ogre's Junior Crown. I'd be concerned too, considering it made her grow human ears! In the web preview released for this episode, there was an animation error of Ogre walking with human ears. The video was taken down and re-released on the same day with the error corrected. Joe happens to run into Genjiro Mosaka, his uncle, whom he mistakenly refers to as Ropei. This joke is lost on many people, but the short answer is that the characters in the name Musaka can be read as Ropei. In some circumstances, they could also be read as Rokuhira, which is what you'll get if you try to Google translate it. Musaka is based on Satomu Setaguchi, and is an integral character to Cinderella Grey, more specifically the Cinderella part. We'll come to learn with time he represents the fairy godmother in Ogre Cap's story. But for now, he witnesses Ogre Cap win the Junior Crown. Ogre promises March to run against her in the Tokai Derby, and it seems that now both of them have a clear goal to work towards. During the winning live, Joe forgets that he still hasn't taught Ogre anything about singing or dancing. But thanks to Norn's dance lessons, Ogre has learned the most important part of an idol's performance: auto-tune! Musaka asks Joe where he plans to take Oguri next, and Joe has settled into Chukyu High, which would be Oguri's first turf race, and her first race outside of Kasamatsu. Musaka tells him to ignore the Chukyu High. Joe doesn't take his uncle's advice, but Musaka's reasoning becomes clear in the after credits, in which it seems Shimbali Rudolph is going to visit the Chukyu racecourse. Interestingly though, the Chukyu High is a dirt race. What took place here was an older version of the race, when it was known as the Chukyu Cup, and was hosted on turf. This is an interesting case of UmaMusume using the modern names for races, as the Chukyu High doesn't even exist anymore. It was closed in 2003. Symboli Rudolph and Marozensky speak on the topic of ashen-haired UmaMusume having a reputation for running poorly, which was true of grey horses around this time. The prejudice started to fade away because of Tamamo Cross's successful career. Oguri achieves her first win on turf, getting the attention of Symboli Rudolph, who summons Joe while Belno eavesdrops. I was half expecting her to do the same ear thing as Grass Wonder. We see a flashback to 15 years ago when Joe was 25, confirming his current age as 40 years old. Uncle Musaka shows up and lights a cigarette. Both him and Joe are the first characters in the series to smoke real cigarettes in this franchise. Musaka puts on display the fact that Joe is a useless neat loser, and forces him to get a real job as a trainer instead of wasting his days simply watching TV and disappointing his parents. How relatable to the average gacha player. The race Joe was watching seems to be based on the 1972 Japanese Derby, with Everspeed being a stand-in for Long Ace, giving us another hint that the series takes place in 1987. Snap back to reality, and Symboli Rudolph has offered Joe the opportunity to let Ogre race in the Nationals, but with the catch that Joe isn't a national licensed trainer, and won't be able to go alongside Ogre. It is something that really happened with Ogre's real-life owner, trainer, and jockey, all of whom were not licensed to own, train, or ride a horse in the Nationals. Ogre Cap's owners were conflicted with the hefty offer given to them to have Ogre Cap purchased to be a national horse. And the way it's adapted into the anime, however, is something I do have a gripe with. For now, Ogre seems to want to stick around with Joe and help him achieve his dream. Meanwhile, Tamamo Cross has won the G2 Naro Okinen, her third win in a row and her first graded victory. After a phone call with Rudolph, Joe gives an ultimatum to Ogre. She's to participate in the Gold Junior. If she wins, she will race in the Nationals. And if she loses, she will stay in Kasamatsu and shoot for the Tokai Derby. This did not happen. In reality, it was merely stated that if Ogre Cap didn't perform well enough in the Nationals, he would be moved back to Kasamatsu. But the plan to transfer him has already been decided by this point. Ogre understandably doesn't take this ultimatum well. Neither does Rudolph, or anybody sane, really. Rudolph reprimands Joe and tells him that any other trainer at Kasamatsu would be better than him. Even that guy, Yuichi. On the day of the race, there's much merchandise being sold related to Ogre Cap, including the silks of his jockey. We see a little girl buying an Ogre Cap plushie. Her name is known Ace, and she's a primary example of what was known as an Ogre Cow. You see, Ogre Cap was the first Japanese horse to have plush toys made in his image. Due to his insane popularity, which would spark the second major boom in horse racing at the time, a large part of his fan base was comprised of young women, and as such, they received the name of Ogre Gals. Ogre Cap's friends are concerned about the possibility of her leaving Kasamatsu. March in particular doesn't take it too well. Damn! First time we've ever seen an Uma lay her hands on another one this way. March got no chill. I can't take this. I gotta do something about this. Wow, March? Really? Over some race? Slapping Ogre like that? And for what? Huh? And for what? Just because she wanted to... March and Ogre have their final showdown against one another, and after some tough love from Musaka, Joe encourages Ogre to take the win without hesitation, causing her hair tie to evaporate. Wait, what? How? Ogre Cap wins the Gold Junior, marking her 8th consecutive win at Kasamatsu. March is devastated and goes to her trainer. And this dude Shibasaki has to be the only male trainer in the series to be able to hold his horse like this. During the winning live, Ogre announces her transfer into the Nationals. Everyone celebrates. Belno reveals she's moving away with Ogre as well, having been accepted into Tracer's sports science program, mirroring how Masaru Minoa was one of the only people to transfer alongside Ogre Cap, and continue to be his farrier even in the Nationals. As a final goodbye, known off offers for everyone to participate in a group picture. There was indeed a group photo taken with Ogre Cap before he finally transferred. But the real-life version wasn't as sweet. Ogre Cap's trainer, Masao Asumi, was still bitter towards Koichi Ogre for allowing Ogre Cap to be purchased. Asumi was the one whose dream it was to win the Toka Derby, and as such refused to be in the photo. But hey, no need to worry about any tensions in the anime version. Everybody's happy and everybody's here. We got Shibasaki and his horse and the Three Stooges and even... Oh, they seem to have forgotten South Heroine. I guess she just got lost. Sunvisor, wake up, we got Sunvisor, come on, we gotta go. Get the yaoi paddle. Wake the up, Sunvisor. We got a city to burn. By my accursed blade! Hearken! O butcher of the blameless, and drinker of the tears of sorrow, how many cries have ye swallowed? I name thee tyrant, I name thee merciless, and I cast upon thee the full weight of my wrath, for I stand as the last wall between your cruelty and the innocent, by oath and by honor, by the spirits you have wronged, who now march at my back! I swear this, your reign ends here, shattered in my grasp, and your legacy shall be naught but cold blood and regret about the winds of a freer world. For we are here, and we will annihilate. We were too late. Woohoo! Woohoo! I guess, we should take a moment of silence, then. Introducing the Fanart Spotlight. Today's art was provided by yours truly, so let's read a message from Strife Knight. Support the channel and its future by subscribing and becoming a channel member today. I also have opened up a Patreon. Find out how you can submit your own fan art for future videos or posts by following the link below. Now here's today's fun fact. Did you know that only 0% of you are subscribed? This means I don't beg for it enough. So, hey, maybe just hit that button, for my sake. At the start of episode 7, we're treated to the familiar side of Trace Academy, and the not-so-familiar side of a weirdly drawn Tazuna. The opening has changed, more prominently featuring Ogre's new rivals, as well as Musaka, who now acts as Ogre's trainer in the Nationals. When talking about Rudolph, Musaka says there are no guarantees in racing, except for her victory. A play on a quote from Yuji Nohira, Symbolic Rudolph's trainer, which sounds a lot cooler than the original, which goes more along the lines of, they say there are no absolutes in horse racing, but Rudolph is an exception. He is an absolute. Despite all her build-up, Symbolic Rudolph proceeds to get into generational order depth with her next 5 words.
Eclipse first, the rest nowhere.
Ogre Cap gets introduced to her class, and we're shown some of her classmates, starting with another major jobber stand-in, Dictus Striker, based on Son of Dictus, Soccer Boy, the father of Narita Top Road and Hishi Miracle. There's also Sakura Chiyano, Major Arden, Black Ale, a stand-in for Roger Black, Super Creek, and Yaino Mutaki. When learning about the Triple Crown, Yaino Mutaki is able to name all 3 races, as he was the only horse who would participate in all 3 races of the 1988 Classics. It's here where it's brought up that Ogre has missed the registration period, and now cannot participate, which she wants to do because Japanese Derby vaguely sounds like Toka Derby. This is the most limp-dick plot point of the show. How did this happen? In real life, the whole back and forth of Koichi Ogre not being able to decide whether or not he would transfer Ogre Cap kept at Nationals is what caused him to miss a registration period. But here, he's just waved off with Musaka going, "Oh, Joe didn't tell you?" But why didn't Musaka himself say anything about it? He's your trainer now, isn't he? They never really circled back to this, so I'll keep my thoughts on for later. Let's keep going for now. Ogre tries to ask Rudolph for help, but she's just insanely rude to her for no reason. And Ogre starts trying to pick a fight with her, like, what? Rudolph is all farming real hard to overcompensate for that blunder.
Big lips.
When she speaks of an UmaMusume who will trample upon the corpses of others, the one standing above them all is Mary Beauty from episode 1. After being told that she'd compete in the G3 Pegasus Stakes, Ogre bumps into Black L, and they wager that if Ogre loses, she'll be forced back to Kasumatsu. While not as extreme, there was a worry that Ogre Cap wouldn't actually adapt too well to turf compared to dirt. And if it was found that he was underperforming, he would have been moved back to local races. We're introduced to the rest of Musaka's team, each member of being a combination of two horses which have been trained by Sadaguchi. Meikun Tsukasa, named after Meikun Samson and Tsukasa Power. God Hannibal, named after Godspeed and Maruka Hannibal. And most interestingly, Kraft Universe, named after Ryan Kraft and Neo Universe. Two horses which would both become UmaMusume. They help teach Ogre a hard lesson. If you're blocked, you're blocked. At the Pegasus Stakes, Masaru Akasaka introduces us to her co-host, Egawa. Rather than having a real-life cameo, he's simply a character with the combined names of two horse racing commentators, Shoguro Isaki and Keijiro Okawa. Once Ogre Cap is at the paddock, we're introduced to Sensuke Fuji, a reporter based on Kyosen Ohashi, a real-life reporter who is very interested in Ogre Cap's career, and will come into importance later. Right before she enters the gates, Ogre Cap shakes with excitement, as the real horse did the same. Yai no Mutake, Major Arden, and Super Creek are watching the race on TV. Their classmates Dicta Striker and Sakura Chiano aren't here because they're both competing at the Yayo show, which is held on the same day. Ogre Cap wins by running in from the far outside, greatly impressing Sensuke and causing him to write about her in his article. The real-life Kyosen would keep at this, and would even start a petition to let Ogre race in the classics, something we'll see Sensuke Fuji do later. We see Yano Mutake racing at the Chokujin Shogi show, her second ever race. Eagle-eyed viewers will notice that she's racing on dirt rather than turf. Her debut race was the same. Yano Mutake's team saw that he was very fit for dirt racing, but wanted to put him to the test on turf, and aimed for the G3 Mainichi High, putting Yano Mutake head-to-head against Ogre Cap. Maruzenski mentions that Rudolph left a big hole when she retired. Sort of true. There was a no-star horses era in racing which only lasted 1 year in 1987. People were really dooming about the fact that Rudolph retired, but things started looking up in 1988 with this current generation. Yaino Motake loses against Ogre Cap in the Mainichi High. This race being a stepping stone for horses to participate in the Satsuki show, meaning that Yaino Motake does not qualify, which she tells her trainer, who by the way, does not have a name. I checked. He states that if any of the other races withdraw, there's a good chance that she'll be able to take their spot instead, due to her impressive race record. Sounds reasonable, but despite Yaino Mutake participating in the Satsuki show, this isn't exactly what happened. Race record didn't have much to do with it. Yaino Mutake's participation was actually through winning a lottery. No joke, the open slot was filled in using a lottery, and Yaino Mutake won it by complete coincidence. As for the race itself, it takes place at a Tokyo racecourse rather than the usual Nakayama racecourse, as at the time it was undergoing renovation.
What's good?
Sakura Chiano gets snuck up on by Maruzenski, who seems to behave sort of like an older sister to Chiano. This is because Maruzenski is Sakura Chiano's father, and the reason with Chiano, despite having Sakura in her name, does not have the eyes to match, instead having blue eyes to match with Maruzenski. We got to see the person who withdrew, and it's Dicta Striker, who has a leg injury. Sakura wasn't directly injured in any way, but was instead sick, having contracted hoof disease. Yaino Mutake wins. Chiano scores third, and second place winner is Dicta Earth, as stand-in for Dicta Land. After the race, there was much talk about what would have happened if Ogre Cap had participated. This is where Sensuke and the real-life reporter Kyosen doubled down on petition for Ogre Cap to join the Japanese Derby in particular, getting over 10,000 signatures. Maruzenski mentions that she was barred from participating in the Japanese Derby. This because he was an American horse, and there were restrictions on foreign horses racing in the classics. She mentions that she would have accepted a post on the far outside, echoing the words of her jockey, Nakano Watari Seichi, who said that he would accept an outside post and would not interfere with the other horses, and and was even willing to give up the prize money. All he asked was to prove himself and Marzensky in the Japanese Derby. The race they're watching is the Spring Tenno Show, the first G1 victory of Tamamo Cross. You can briefly see that alongside her in this race are Mary Beauty, who finished 14th, and Gold City, who finished 5th. After Rudolph begs and pleads with the chairman of the National Racing Advisory Board, we finally make it to the Japanese Derby. Rudolph watches over the participants: Sakura Chiano, Yainu Mutiki, Major Arden, Dicta Striker, and Ogre Cap. Well, Rudolph closes her eyes beforehand, and you already know what's happening here. Ogre Cap is actually racing in the New Zealand Trophy. Rudolph is simply imagining how things would have went if Ogre Cap was here. Anyone who's paying attention would notice that Ogre is wearing her generic outfit, and not her G1 uniform like everyone else, a detail that a surprising number of people simply brush off. Rudolph recalls her own time in the Japanese Derby, and here we get our first hint at the zone. Sakura Chiano breaks past her limits and achieves victory. The camera pans between her and Marzensky. Yet, this isn't given the proper context or time it deserves, as most viewers are too preoccupied with the reveal of the fake-out. There's very little build-up here in the form of Marzensky talking about her dream of racing in the Japanese Derby, which most people would apply towards Ogre Cap, rather than the son that would end up fulfilling his father's dream. It's just a waste that this isn't what the scene is about, as Ogre Cap has just won the G2 New Zealand Trophy. The chairman tells Rudolph that her plea is not in vain. While Ogre Cap would not participate in the Classics, a new rule would be put in place to allow late registrations to the Classics after taking an additional fee. I've spoken about it in my Road to the Top review. This is the Ogre Cap rule. We're showing a glimpse of Tamamo O, the first horse to ever benefit from that rule. Future UmaMusume that would also benefit from this are Heishi Miracle and Kida-san Black. Ogre Cap doesn't seem too upset about missing the Derby. She just brushes it off and keeps walking forward. Well, she got over that right quick. And with that, the national debut arc ends. After the credits, we get a teaser of what's to come. And this upcoming arc will see Ogre Cap face her greatest adversary yet. Genji retakes Ogre Cap to the Takarazuka Kinen to witness the peak of racing, where Tamamo Cross will go up against Akitsu Teio, a stand-in for Nippo Teio, with this being the most important race in each of their careers so far. Akitsu is called the Mile Monarch, and is stated to have won 3 G1 races, those being the Tenno Show Autumn, Mile Championship, and Yasuda Kinen. Although what Akitsu Teio is most well known for is the fact that he is Haru Rara's father. Yep. Tamamo Cross crushes Akitsu Teio and gets her 7th win in a row. With this defeat came Nippo Teio's permanent retirement. Tamamo pulls her in-game G1 victory animation. The same voice line and all.
語るまでもない今の中央で最強なのは彼女
We see Ogre in her room, seemingly no roommate. In the game, she's actually Tamamo Cross's roommate, but they likely separated them here to keep them unfamiliar until their proper meeting. Ogre gets a phone call from Fujimasa March. There's a painting in the room that references a mural, seen at the tunnel between Kasumasa Station and Racecourse. March relays the news to Ogre that she only got 4th place at the Tokyo Derby, with the winner being Fujino Northern, whom we'll see make an appearance later in the season. After the phone call, we see Ogre Cap win the G2 Takamatsu no Miya High. That's a new record, although this one will be quickly broken by Major Arden. Meanwhile, we finally get introduced to Tamamo's trainer, Masami Komiyama, who is based on Tamamo Cross's real-life trainer, Isami Obara. She's, holy shit. So after getting stun-locked, I decided to watch the rest of this episode, and I realized it's all filler. Terrific. Belna mentions that God Hannibal got stuck in the stump again. Here's what that looked like. They predicted Skibby Toilet. It's time for Ogre Cap to race in the G2 Mainichi Oka, and we get to see the lineup of opponents she'll go up against. From left to right, they are Master Viking, a stand-in for Bold Northman, Lord Royal, a stand-in for Legend Teio, Series Symboli, who is having her 2nd race in Japan after coming back from racing all around Europe, Dynamo Heroine, a stand-in for Dyna Actress, Long Live Free, a stand-in for Running Free. Gold City sits down with Tamamo Cross during lunch, making note that she's eating more than usual, which is something that happened when Tamamo Cross stayed at the Tokyo racecourse. Check out this continuity error. Next to Sensuke, this woman is blonde. Next shot, she's brunette. Boy, I sure hope somebody got fired for that blunder. While Sirius is showing off, she accidentally hits Lord Royal and Dynamo Heroine. In real life, he actively kicked the both of them, causing Legend Teio to withdraw from the race, causing Sirius and his team to get into a fight with Legend Teio's team. Yainu Mutiki makes note that she feels a sensation from Ogre Cap that she's only felt from 2 others, Tamamo Cross and Dicta Striker. This foreshadows Core 2, where all 3 of these characters will use the zone. Another thing we'll see more of in Core 2 is Dicta Striker's G3 Hakodate Kinen, London, where she defeated 2 Derby winners, Sirius Symboli and Mary Beauty. We see that Major Arden and Sakura Chiono had been injured around this time, Arden with a broken bone and Chiono with tendonitis. The race starts, and due to missing its lead frontrunner, the pace was slow, being now set by Messier of Mine, a standard for Minor David. Ogre Cap achieves victory by brute forcing her way from the far outside, earning her 6th national victory in a row, a tie for the current record. Tamamo Cross gets a very ominous phone call. Meanwhile, it seems that Joe has come to visit. Tamamo Cross visits a hospital room with an old man in it. There's not much in the way right now of exactly who this man is, but for those who pay attention to the framing of these 2 scenes side by side, you'll understand that Tamamo Cross, just like Ogre, is meeting up with her old trainer again. At the Autumn Tenno Show press conference, we see our lineup for Ogre Cap's first G1 race. Sirius Symboli, Dynamo Heroine, and Massive Viking all return from the Mainichi Okan. Ogre Cap dons her G1 outfit for the first time, wearing a big star to represent the star of Kasamatsu, and sporting brand new racing shoes, which do have some real-life connotations. I'll speak more on them later when the time is appropriate, but for now you can consider them her new glass slippers. The last major contender for the Tenno Show is Ogre Cap's long-awaited match, Tamamo Cross, who walks on stage and does this. We're past the point of plausible deniability. She straight up has superpowers. The outro changes to reflect Ogre Cap's new racing uniform. The episode starts with a flashback to Tamamo Cross and her mother. This is only a fragment of the backstory you get for the character. We'll get a few of these, so for the sake of being able to cover them all at once, I'll hold off speaking on these scenes for now. So let's speed through trivia regarding the build-up to this race. Tamamo Cross gets ready for the Autumn Tenno Show. Just like Ogre Cap, we're not shown a roommate. No one's middle finger to the TV was completely uncensored in the manga version. Musaka tells Ogre Cap to make this race her own. The exact words said to Ogre's jockey, Hiroshi Kawachi. Komiyama says that Tamamo Cross is usually anxious before a race, which is true of real life, and made Tamamo Cross quite difficult to train at times. She recollects a race in which Tamamo was caught in a collision. This was an ungraded race in May of the previous year. Tamamo Cross failed to finish, and formed a fear of the pack because of this, making him adopt his end-closer running style. Musaka jump-scares Komiyama, while not outright stated here. And the manga, this is where it was implied that she was a former student of his. The announcer states that over 120,000 spectators are in attendance, which are the exact numbers of the real-life race. Top Shunbutsu, a stand-in for Toshu Summit, talks to herself about whether or not she should take the lead. Toshu Summit's team made the statement before the race that he would do so, but ended up with a late start, allowing Lord Royal to easily become the frontrunner for this race. Tamamo Cross catches everyone by surprise as she starts pace racing in the race. Katsumi Minai had made this plan completely on his own and told absolutely no one about the change in strategy, including Tamamo Cross's trainer. While trying to make a move, Sirius Symboli fractured his leg during the race, marking then and there for this day to be the end of his career. Lord Royal speaks about her front-running strategy. This isn't properly translated, as she refers to it as Onige, and we're shown that people call her Lord Onige, which is a unique running strategy better described as an extreme form of front-running. There's an incline on the final straight before the finish line, called the Heartbreaking Hill, due to the high amounts of stamina required from the horses to overcome it. As Tamamo Cross passes Lord Royal, Ogre Cap starts inching closer. With Tamamo on her last legs and at her limit, we get one more flashback. And with this, it's time for us to talk about Tamamo Cross. Tamamo Cross was born on Nishikino Farm, a ranch on the brink of bankruptcy, owned by Nishikino Masaki, a retired horse racing professional whose passionate dream it was to produce a horse that could rival those from larger farms. Despite superstitions surrounding gray horses, Nishikino truly believed that Tamamo Cross could save them, and was hesitant to sell him. But the ranch was running out of money. Out of desperation to find him a good home, Tamamo and his pregnant mother were taken to Napa Farm, where they were offered as free gifts, as the ranch couldn't even afford to feed them anymore. But it was breeding season, and the Napa Farm was full at the time, and thus, Tamamo Cross and his mother could not stay there. A shame, as the Napa Farm happened to be the birthplace of one Ogre Cap. Tamamo Cross and his mother ended up being separated after being sold off for a pittance to different farms, out of the agreement that some of Tamamo's winnings would be used to help Nishikino's ranch and cover his debts. But as fate would have it, the ranch would close its doors permanently before Tamamo Cross would even set foot on his first race, a race that ended up an utter defeat. Not long after, news would come about, the death of his mother. After giving birth, she was sold and rebought repeatedly. Being passed around so much caused so much stress stress that resulted in her dying of intestinal volvulus, losing both his home and family. All Tamamo Cross had left was his ability to race, and not even that would last. He was forced to race on sand tracks, a dead end for any career, and it was during his 4th race that he ended up getting caught in a collision, which left him injured and caused him to develop PTSD from being in the pack. After recovering from his injuries, he had to be trained again from scratch. It was around this point that people noticed Tamamo's temperament. He was violent and a recluse, acting hostile towards humans and horses alike. He was sent to a turf race to assess his ability to transition into steeplechasing. But after attaining victory several lengths over, it seemed that other plans were in store for Tamamo Cross. He would win again and again, with the audience stunned that a grey horse could be capable of such a thing. While some supported him to change the perception of grey horses, he still had many detractors, those who would say that his wins were mere flukes. And thus, to many people, Tamamo Cross became something of a heel around this time. And it just so happened that right around the corner, a new face has risen up. UmaMusume benefited from the change in perception towards grey horses more than Tamamo. He was seen as an underdog, a monster of local racing come to take his rightful place in the nationals. UmaMusume was everything Tamamo Cross wasn't. Tamamo had an eating disorder that made it so that he vomited if he ate more than a newborn. UmaMusume, on the other hand, was a large eater, which made him quite endearing to audiences. It also resulted in Tamamo being very small, and Ogre was quite large. Imagine being in his place, facing an opponent twice your size, one who knows nothing of the struggle you faced. He is beloved for the color of his coat, while you are despised for yours. Even his mental illnesses are more marketable than yours. And the one thing everyone wants him to do is take you down. When you have nothing left, and everyone believes this to be the day you fall, the one thing you can do, the one thing you have left, is to prove them wrong! Tamamo Cross achieves the zone, and with the power to dominate the Tenno Show, becoming the first horse in history to win both Tenno Show races within the same year, cementing a spot in horse racing history, and forever erasing any doubt people held against the grey horses. This was his 8th consecutive victory, and 3rd G1 victory in a row. UmaMusume was in 2nd place, and Lord Royal in 3rd. It's said that UmaMusume recognized his defeat, to which he showed his frustrations by scraping his head on the ground. Core 1 ends with a callback to the first episode, and the post-credits tease what's to come, although such things are better left for part 2. Now, this is usually where I would leave my review and rank this season, but I have made the decision to group Core 1 and 2 together on the ranking. I believe them to be 2 halves of a complete story, and as such it would be disservice if I stated my thoughts too early. This pacing really comes about from this being a manga adaptation, so I'll just have to adapt accordingly, it seems. So please, stay tuned and look forward to the next part, where I will be looking at the International Racers arc of Cinderella Grey. Once again, I have opened up a Patreon. If you'd like to support me and have your name listed at the end of these videos, please give it a look. Alternatively, you can instead choose to become a channel member. The benefits are identical. But with that, we come to a close. I'll see you next time. Thank you. Thank you very much.